18, or at the age of 18, you know, I found myself kind of in this shift of what am I doing with myself? You know, I was involved with I don't want to say an incident, but I was pulled over, and at that point, that's kind of when your nuts drop. You're like, fuck, like, did I just really do this? And, you know, cop came up, knocked on the window, said, hey, pull over on the side of the road. And, you know, at that point, I was just like, you know, what did I do? You know, my bad, you know. So he's like, no, I just want to check on you to make sure you're okay. You know, you have blood on your shirt. I want to make sure you weren't stabbed or weren't shot. I was just like, the fuck you talking about, dude? And I'm like, oh, shit. So pulled over off kind of the shoulder of the road. And, you know, at that point, that's kind of, I'm like, all right, I passed out, you know, at a fucking red light. And now I'm going to jail for DUI or whatever. What are the next steps? And, you know, fortunately at that time, you know, it was, no, what you're going to do is you're going to throw your fucking keys out into the grass and you're going to walk home. And I'm like, all right, great. Like, really? Fucking, wow.
What, did you know this guy from the past?
I had no idea who this dude was. Cop just came up, wanted to make sure I was okay. I was just like passed out. He hit the window. I woke up. He's pull over off the side of the road, get out, and you're walking home. And I was like, you fucking kidding me? I was like, yes, sir. Roger that. And that was the moment when I was like, I need to get the fuck out of here. Like, I'm not here anymore. Like, this is not a conducive place for where I need to be living and what I'm doing with my life and where I saw my life or how I respected myself in that.
So at 18, you understood the gravity of what that cop just let you get away with. And at 18, that's...
And, you know, the irony of that is, like, I grew up in a household where it was firefighters, law enforcement, you know, so, you know, I don't want to say into politics, but, you know, my grandfather and his job for the county was to run Board of Elections. So it's like, that's an elected seat, elected position. So it's like, you know, now all of a sudden, I didn't really ever give a shit about politics. You know, I figured, you know, at this point, like, we don't have politics. We wouldn't really have many of the issues that we do have because there's a lot of, I'm going to say I'm going to do one thing, smoke and mirrors, and then nothing ever gets accomplished. And, you know, at least from that standpoint, being in that position is when I was just like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. Otherwise, I'm either going to go to prison, I'll be in jail, or dead. But at the same time, I needed that next step. I needed that institution that could assist in reforming who I was as an individual, as a competitor, as an athlete, as something that had somebody who had drive at one point and kind of was a little off center. And that's when, you know, I went down to the recruiting station. I was like, what do I sign? How do I get out of here? And it's the funny thing is, I went to the Army initially, the Army recruiter, and I was like, hey man, like, I'm looking for that $10,000 bonus, blah, blah, blah. This is like 2003. And they're like, yeah, no, we're not doing those anymore. I'm like, you guys do know there's a fucking war going on, right? I was like, aren't you trying to recruit anybody you can? Like, why wouldn't you be giving away 10 grand for someone to enlist and join the Army?
Sure.
They're like, yeah, well, we're not doing that, you know, this and that thing. And I was like, all right. So throughout high school, I was involved in what they call like their poolee program with the Marine Corps. And, you know, you kind of meet up once a month. You do, you know, you kind of get with some younger guys that just got out of boot camp. They come in, you know, they
kind of that hometown recruiting deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
They run you, they put you through, they bring in, you know, drill instructors and whatever, and they try to just run you through that mock period of like, this is what it's going to be like, and this, that, the other thing. And
it was Marine based.
Yes.
In your high school. Okay.
Yeah. The Army came around once in a while. Coast Guard, I don't even know if the Coast Guard existed in my, but no. But no, it was a Marine base. They, you know, they were the dudes that were walking around in their Charlies, you know, just I was just like, looks pretty rad. Like, what do you guys do?
So the Charlies, I gotta assume that's your uniform. Is that what you meant?
So the dress Charlies, the brownish sand color shirt with your or blouse with your blue pants, red stripe, whatever.
Oh, you guys always had the best uniforms, hands down.
Yeah. That's probably the one good thing that we had. That was of everything. That's like that's the only probably perk that we had. As far as other equipment, it fucking blew. So they got the dress code right at least. But then going back and forth with that, seeing the camaraderie, seeing what that was like, looking at what they were preaching really resonated with me, because it was it's like going to football practice. It was like being a part of this team. It was this contact sport where you're here to put out, you're here to do some things individually, but at the same time, you're here to strive together as a team. And when I walked into the recruiting station, I was just like, let's go. Like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. Like, I was in back and forth with, where I was living at the time, when I was at home, with my mother, came from kind of like broken household, that whole scenario, and bounced back and forth between mothers, fathers, grandmothers, back, that just a circuit, because I wasn't an easy kid at the time. I was definitely a pain in the ass and a little punk ass dude that probably needed to get the shit kicked out of him a few times.
Upstate New York, is that?
Yeah, upstate New York, Schenectady. Graduated Schenectady High School. And I think at one point I got almost suspended. I think it was suspended for like 7 weeks.
7 weeks?
For getting into a fight, yeah.
That's got to be like right on the edge of the record before they have to expel, right?
Yeah, it was a...
I think you can only miss so many days and still be on the roll.
Yeah. So I ended up going to like their... it was like a tutoring session that they'd give you. So you go to this, area where they were deemed like, yes, this is a part of that school. This is that outlet branch. Went there 2 hours a day, got whatever classes I needed. Whatever the teachers submitted is the work that I put in, and I was able to, so I could stay on pace.
Right.
And
to ensure that graduation happened.
Yeah. And then after that, signed up with the recruiting station, and took me, I think it was like 2 months from getting through MEPS and being able to go through that whole entire process of everything there. And I finally I departed for boot camp, recruit training in February. Finished February, March, April, right around April timeframe, April, May. And then checked in down at what we call Camp Geiger, MCT SOI area, where you learn more of just the very precepts of what you're going to be doing in that field. And then once you finish that, then you go off to your school. And then once you finish your schooling, then you have a choice based on how you performed in school. Like, hey, where are you going to go after this? Like, where do you want to go?
So with the Marines, everyone's an infantryman first, and then you go on to...
You go on to your specialty. You go on to your MOS school.
Okay.
So for us, it was because I went in as a radio operator. So my function was, all right, RTO 0621. From there, MCT, it was like we call it Marine Corps camping trip. So you just go out there, you spend 21 days out in the field. They teach you just basic manual shit. Like, there is nothing, you're doing some humps and hikes, but it's nothing it's just superficial. And from there, you go out to your main school, and then from your main school, my school was in 29 Palms, and that was 3 months, I believe. So once I finished that school, I had choices of whether or not I wanted to go either West Coast, East Coast, and I'm an East Coast dude, so I was just like, all right, I'm gonna go to Camp Lejeune. This is where, it's closer access to my family. How do I, on Libos or leave or just, 96s or whatever, I just want to be able to shoot them. And most of the dudes that were on that side anyways, they were either from Jersey or anywhere up and down the East Coast, so it was easy to kind of go wherever you wanted to go. And after school, checked into the fleet, learned about the fleet real quick. I ended up volunteering for duty, and it was just kind of like really kind of a culture shock, because I thought, after sitting on duty for 12 hours, I was done. But I was a fucking boot, dude. I had no idea. So it was funny. I went out and ended up grabbing a beer, grabbing some pizza, just hanging out with the boys that I checked in with. And the next thing you know, I get the actual duty sergeant calling me, like, "Where the fuck are you, dude?" And I was just like, "What are you talking about?" Like,
still don't understand it.
Still don't, you relieved me. Like, what do you mean? I'm here. I'm on base. Like, I'll be there. And I'm like, "Get your fucking ass back." And it was just like, all right, yeah. And then from that point, I get chewed up one side, down the other, and then just fucking sitting there for the rest of the night until 7:00 in the morning until it was done. But I think after that, it was just a matter of like, hey, I own my shit, own my mistake. I fucked up, my bad. Now I know.
Right.
And I spent roughly, I think, 4 or 5 months with H&S at that time. And then after that is when I got picked up to go to a line company. And then I spent the rest of my time with 2nd Battalion, 6th Marines Echo Company. And they were just coming back from Afghanistan at the time. I think they were in Kabul doing some of the presidential movements and all of that. And prior to that, they were in Okinawa. So they came off that pump, did Afghanistan. After Afghanistan, came back. So it was a pretty experienced, seasoned unit that I was checking into.
Okay.
And then after that, we were scheduled and slated. That's when kind of Fallujah was really kind of kicking off and everything was happening. And around that time where, hey, we got word and wind, we're going to be the next deployment or next cycle that's going to be going into Fallujah.
What year was that?
That was in 2005. So
okay.
Tail end of 04, checked in, and then beginning of 05, like, hey, you guys are slated for the next combat team that's going to be going in. And we ended up leaving in September of that year of 2005.
And those are 1-year rotations, or are those?
No, so what's awesome about the Marine Corps, where I think you guys got hosed in the Army, was the fact that we had to do 7 months.
Okay.
So 7 months, and that was it, and then we were gone. I know you think Army was 12 months to 15 months sometimes, where it's just like, dude, I don't know how the fuck you guys did that. That's brutal.
Yeah, it's like a PCS move, or it was, especially at the height of the war. So 2005, it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
And so you guys it's September. You guys did your train up. Now you're going in. Tell me about that trip.
Yeah, so that trip.
And this is your first combat deployment?
Yeah,
per se?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a boot lance corporal. Never done shit. And I'm out here, like, hey, well, it's like, all right, fuck, okay, whatever I have to do for my sergeant that was in charge of me.
Like, you've got 2 years in at this point, right? You came in 03, now it's 05.
No, I was 04. I came in 04. So
okay.
I'm just like literally a year and a half.
Okay,
like,
18 months in.
Yeah. So from there.
19 and a half, 20 years old.
So I was 21. So on my 21st birthday is when we're leaving TQ, driving in on 7 tons into Fallujah is my 21st birthday. That's how I experienced my 21st birthday.
Okay.
So
memorable one, huh?
Oh yeah. You just ride in, smells like fucking death, just burning trash, burning flesh. It's just one of those smells where it's like I'll never forget it. Like it'll always, like, sometimes you just go by a really fucked up area, you're just kind of like, I know that smell.
Yeah.
And then from there, it was just trying to get set up, learning our AO, doing that left seat, right seat with the unit that was outbound. And, where we were at the train station, so just north of the city, and our operations were pretty much, continued down just south of, ended at the CMOC and then went over to another spot. So CMOC was kind of like in and around like where Blackwater Bridge was and all that, like kind of crossing into the Shark's Fin area. So for us, it was just like, hey, here's our little sector where we're going to be operating at. And at that time, there was a lot of foot patrols, basically trying to find contact. And that's what the Marine Corps was about at that time. We're not trying to spread peace and butterflies. But, we ended up starting to take casualties. And then for us at that time, the biggest threat were the snipers that were happening. And the individual that was responsible for that was a part of that cell that killed that sniper team that was on the roof in Ramadi. They skeeted out, and they were following the SOPs or TTPs from the DC sniper at the time. So they were shooting us through the back end, tail end of vehicles or in different positions, then using automatic fire as cover for that dude to peel out. And, so they started, that's when they had Orgish and all of those sites that were up and running and just showing dudes, and it was in November when we really kind of took our biggest hit, and that was a senior corporal Snyder in the company. And I think what sucked is like he was such a beloved individual that watching him out there just throwing candy off the roof to kids and like who he was as a genuine person, and then literally watching him being shot in the head, and then what that response was thereafter, trying to get him down because of how those OPs and stairwells and all this other bullshit was set up. And, having to deal with that as a company, that was a huge blow for a lot of us. And, it was just one of those, like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, we just lost this dude. This dude was a fucking monster. Like, he was that dude that you wanted. There was no real grieving process that you could really kind of go through. So once that happened, everybody goes into River City, fucking phones, all the internet communications, all that shit goes down. At that time, it's like we had Moto Mail. That was like the jam at the time. It's like your family can send you a fucking telegram. And it's just like, hell yeah, dude. Like, I'm not having to wait 2 fucking weeks to get a letter in. Now it's like awesome. But that was a time where, we all kind of had to reconsolidate and figure out like, hey, this shit's fucking real. Not that we didn't think it before or prior or to that, but this was just like that kick in the balls of like, tighten up your fucking chin strap. And, moving forward, and, there were other SIG acts that happened where we took more casualties. And, it was, I think collectively it was that deployment where you're just kind of like, all right, like, damn, forever changed. And for me, I think the one that stood out the most was, we were trying to extract a guy out who had been, essentially, he was expectant. He was shot through the back of the ear, came out the front of his face. So he was a dude that was, clinging on at that time when we had him, carried him up. Our vehicles were being engaged, so we couldn't move that. So we had a IP truck, little Iraqi police truck that was there, little fucking Hilux. And we tossed that dude out, and then we tossed him in and threw our comms in the back, which didn't work. And, we're trying to radio, nothing. So we're zipping down Fran, trying to get to Fallujah Surgical. And then, we were lucky enough that the CAT team that was circling around, who kind of came in, was acknowledging to that main base at Fallujah Surgical that, hey, we were coming in hot. We didn't have any we had this little dinky fucking American flag that we were just like, fuck, we're about to get lit up by Mark 19s, 50 cals. This is going to be a bad fucking day. But message got passed. We rolled in. He was expectant. And, it was there where, like, the BC's looking at you, and, some of the higher-ups that are there of, like, what the fuck just happened, because this was a long day. And, we're just, like, we were all kind of in a moment where, you're like, I'm good. Like, you just fucking, you cap that soda bottle. You just fucking, I'm gonna compartmentalize that shit. I'm not even gonna fucking, like, whatever the fuck that was, like, oof, and it was then where it wasn't really, a cognitive decline in, an operational skill set of me being able to maneuver and do something, but I felt as though it's like, hey, we hit these problems where comms didn't work. We didn't have enough gear that we needed to use. Like, there was no crite kits. There was nothing that we could use. Or we're looking at trying to use a fucking pen just to stick into this dude's trach just to get him some sort of airway. And, I didn't know any of that. And, from that point of just kind of feeling like, what the fuck can I do? Not having any opportunity to be able to do anything.
What medical training did you have going in? I mean, you've been in 18 months, so you got some in basic training, and I assume you did a little bit prior to going into Iraq when you did your train up. But now you're
do tourniquets and Israelis, and then take your pill pack. You get hit, you're gonna put a tourniquet on, you're gonna take your fucking pill pack, and that's it.
Wow.
Keep the red shit in the body. At that point,
that's what you know. So you've been in the Army, you've been in the Marine Corps now about 2 years.
Yeah.
21 years old, and this is what you're being asked to deal with, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, we're rolling around where, dude, we had sandbags on the back of the high backs, where it's like our high backs were just, it was basically these Kevlar blankets, these blast shields that we literally had to ratchet strap.
It looked like the cyber trucks, right? Yeah. But now you got sandbags strapped to the top of those.
Well, no, these weren't even the cyber trucks. This was just a straight up box on wheels, where they had like I think 9mm gauge steel that was just welded together with a couple portholes off on the side, so you could at least see out. And then on top of that, we strapped Kevlar blankets around with like 3-inch freaking ratchet straps. That's
how you're rolling.
That's how we're rolling these fucking janky little jalapenos, trying to, and ACs didn't work, so it's just blowing out hot air inside the cabin. So the ACs were funny, where it's just like, what the fuck is this thing gonna do?
Is it brutal?
Yeah, and then even in the backseat of that, in some of the low profiles, because I think at that time, man, we only had 2 Vics that were like the cyberbacks, where they're like slanted back.
Yeah.
And that's when they came out with the Warlocks and all of that, all those ECM countermeasures and everything that they were putting on vehicles. And I think it was the boomerang system, where it was going to tell you where the rounds were coming from.
Okay.
But that thing lasted like not even 10 minutes. Like, you go into the city and it's just like you see like 15,000 wires fucking hanging in one junction. You're just like, yeah, that thing got ripped off, and we're dragging that thing in. From a standpoint, like, there was really no supplies, but we had to make do with what we could. And following that, we did the processions, and at least doing the tap ceremony for the individuals that we lost that day. And at least it was 20 minutes, maybe an hour, where you're remembering those little Polaroid images of what it was like to have that person there with you, and those little segments of time of where you spent with them. Because again, I just checked into the unit. I didn't really know everybody that well, but I knew enough of people, because you get your balls busted, you're having fun, it's your birthday, people are fucking with you, which is a good thing,
right?
And and I had some good friends, and I have some amazing friends that I still keep in contact today with that are just brothers. Like, they're not, I feel like I have more aligned with them in my life, and my growth and where I'm going is large part of due to their friendship and being able to contact, and knowing I can contact them anytime. And it's like, what's up, man? You good? And that's not always the case sometimes with family and where we're at, and it's just a ebbs and flow thing of trying to find your people. But I found that with them and our experiences, and some to this day, it's like you want to reach out and you still feel like they're teetering the line, and you don't know, like, how the fuck can we get this dude the help that he needs, or how can we just get him out of this rut, this hole where he's just wasting so much energy. Because it's like, even for me, when I got back, it was a period of time where I just laying in my cot, like, fuck, dude, what's going on? Like, not sleeping, waking up, like, I don't want to say startled, but like trying to drive again, like back in the States, was ridiculous.
So this is that redeployment period, and you're still in the Marines then?
Yeah, still in the Marines, got back home, and after doing the 20-minute ceremony of our dudes that we lost, there was right back on mission. Like, go, here we go. Mm-hmm. This is where we're at. And there was no time to grieve. And at that point, there were operational changes and shifts, and next thing you know, we're outbound, we're back home, and then you're trying to deal with family. The people are throwing parades for you and all this other shit, and you're just kind of like, oh man, I'm so happy. I can't wait to get home and, go out, go to the bar, have some cocktails, whatever. But it's just like, you kind of get stuck in these positions where it's like you just want to go. You want to, like, you're done. Like, you're kicking your rock around. You dropped your pack. You're just like, I'm fucking over this shit. Like, we got to get out of here. And a lot of guys, when we were coming back, were getting out. They're EOCing or EASing. And, from that point, being back home, trying to drive, trying to navigate, trying to just like you just feel that pressure, that squeeze. Even pulling up next to other vehicles, still to this day, hate driving by fucking tractor trailers or fucking dump trucks on the highway, dude, where it's just like coming into a turn or something. I'm just like,
just on edge. Yeah.
Yeah, just like, fuck.
So what was that? So what made you decide to try to get out of the Marine Corps and transition?
So once I left the Marine Corps, it was funny. I was like, hey, I'm going to re-enlist, because trying to get in touch with your career planner was like an obstacle in itself. So I was like, all right, yeah, I'm going to re-enlist. I'm thinking about it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go talk to the career planner. Blah, blah, blah. Hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Well, I picked up sergeant within 3.5. So it was E5 within 3.5 years. And went to him and I was like, hey, I want to be a firefighter. I want to be ARF certified. I want to, they're like, well, we don't have any billets for sergeants as this. I'm like, well, what the fuck does that matter? I want to re-enlist. I want to go be this. They're like, no. I was like, all right, well, see ya. Like, I'm done. Like, there's nothing more that I wanted. And that's when I was like transitioning out from that second deployment back to the CMAO, back to Fallujah. There was just like, that was more of your peacekeeping, handing out food, bags of rice, and all this other stuff. We're just like, what the fuck are we doing here? Because everybody we rolled up last year, they're just now getting out of prison now. And now they're rehabilitated after Abu Ghraib and all of that shit went down. Now they're coming back out onto the streets. And you're just kind of like, all right, well, this is going to be a fun one.
Right. What are we doing?
Yeah, like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like, why are we here again? And at that point, getting back and seeing, just how the political climate was shifting and where that was going. That was the end of that Bush administration.
Yeah, you were coming. It was Obama now coming.
Yeah. You're hearing all the, all the buzzwords of, we're going to downsize, we're going to do this, this, that, and all that. Yay. That's just kind of when I was like, you know what, man, I've seen the Marine Corps. I've gotten a taste of it. I'm good. 4 in the door. That's solid for me. And, I ended up going through the checkout process. I think it was a 3 or 4 day steps and taps where it's like, here's the resources for your resume, write all this shit down for your doc, itemize everything from athlete's foot to, having chlamydia, whatever the case was.
Right.
Just if there was a split hair, document it. So we're like, all right, cool. That's whatever, not a problem. And, while I was in, with the opportunity of looking at it through my career planner, I was like, wanting to look at the fire service while I was there. I started reaching out to some other aspects where I was like, all right, I can go to EMT school now. I can go on terminal leave. I can go to school. I can start registering. I can collect BAH. I can get paid. I can do what I need to do because I have my GI Bill. I was like, I'm going to just go to school. I'm going to live with my grandfather. I'm going to go down to South Florida. I'm going to kick it with him. I'll stay with him for 2 years, get my whatever I got to do, get on my feet, and boom, here we go. I'm going to go in the fire service. And went out on leave December 7th, 72 days after that. I was still in school, January, so for me it was palm trees and silicone, chilling out on the beach, smoking a doob, freaking relaxing, and going through EMT school. And I remember day one, it was the question was asked, why do you want to be here? Why do you want to be an EMT? Why do you want to do this? And at the time, I didn't really have an answer other than, for me, I don't know why yet, but I do. I want to help. I don't know if I want to help. I want to help people, but I don't know yet what I want to do. And fast forward a little bit, went to the fire academy, graduated that, and then went on to paramedic school. And then from paramedic school, there was, obviously some bumps back and forth in between of that, because the process of that was, I'm in Jupiter, paramedic school is down in Broward. That's 75 miles one way. So I had to go down 3 days a week. So I'm driving 150 miles round trip, one day, doing paramedic school, coming back, doing clinicals, doing ride times. And I remember one clinical that we were doing, we get we were in the hospital, the call comes in as a slip and fall. Well, they ended up wheeling this dude in who was an attempted suicide, but over the tone, it was, hey, trauma, get the room, get the trauma base set up and staged. They're coming in, they're bringing this dude in. And as they roll this guy over, it looks like straight up Tales from the Crypt, where he just took a 357, ricocheted off his jaw, split up his face, and his whole shit was just filleted.
Oh, wow.
And I was just like, and I saw that, and I just went, fucking douche, brought me right back when I was in Iraq, and I was just
Right.
I was still doing what I was doing, like, fuck, that hit. And then from there, I was just like, I don't want to say kind of bowed out, but I kind of retracted myself just to kind of get some space to go take a breather once he got set up, because then that's when the trauma nurses were getting in there, and we were just essentially in the way as students. And this dude was on his stomach with a roll wrapped around his face, because it was the only way that they were really going to keep a patent airway on this guy, because of just how much blood was coming out of him. And that's when I was just like, damn, there's something there where it's like, oh no, like, what was that? And I was like, well, clearly it's something I haven't been dealing with.
Right.
And at that point, I knew, I was just like, oh man, oh yeah, just trying to make some dark humor jokes on it, just to kind of continue fucking sweeping shit under the rug. And post that, it's I don't think I've ever told anybody that one, but it was definitely that one where I recognized, like, there's I don't know what's going on, but there's an issue. And continuing down that path, there was really no transition. It was Marine Corps, got out, literally pulled over and almost given a ticket the day I was leaving base. I had my car packed to the fucking gills, and I was like, dude, please don't give me a ticket. I do not want to fucking appear in court here.
Right.
I do not. I won't even come through this state. I won't even come through this part of town ever again. Please don't give me a ticket. I just want to fucking leave and I'll turn my roof. I don't even want to look in the fucking rearview mirror. I'm just trying to be gone. And I ended up getting a warning. He's like, get the fuck out of here. I was like, thank you. But, that was just the point of where I was at with it. And, fast forward a couple of years where it's like, I was just 18 and a half credit hours, 21 credit hours, 24 and a half credit hours.
Wow.
Just feeling as though I didn't do anything against my peers, where I was like, I was trying to keep up. I was trying to match. I was just grinding. And then there's one point where I was just doing it just to make ends meet, where I was just like, all right, so I finished school, got my paramedic by fire, everything.
What are you working towards at this point? I mean, it
Just
seems like you're just getting a lot of like first responder type.
Yeah.
But what, in your mind, what are you working towards?
For me, it was a job on the fire service.
Okay.
Yeah. So for me, it was like, you know what? 1 day on, 3 days off, solid schedule.
Okay.
Like, that's not bad. And the salary and pay was one of the more competitive ones in the nation. So I was like, this makes sense. This is a good fit for me. And, from that point, there was a big hiring freeze. So I was able to get on a smaller department to keep my certs activated. I was still looking at other towns. Went up to, I think it was a spot in Georgia near Six Flags, and was given took their test, took their state or their city test, municipal test, passed that, got brought back up, did their psych, did everything else, and the conditional offer was like, I think it was like $32,000, and I was just like, what am I like?
Yeah.
I think at that point I was almost like 80 grand in debt. So I was just like, what the fuck am I gonna do with $30,000? Like, I can't even scratch my ass with $32,000. So from there it was I had met one of my buddies I was in the Marine Corps with, who was like, hey man, I'm in Miami, why don't you come down? I got my buddy, he's with me. He works for the Department of State. I told him that you were doing EMT stuff, you're a medic, and he wants to talk to you. So I was like, fucking sweet, right on, let's do this, let's go. So he's like, what do you have? He's like, are you an EMT? I was like, no, I'm a nationally registered paramedic. I took my national registry, I passed my national registry. And he's like, wait, you're what? I was like, yeah. He's like, all right, here's what I want you to do. I want you to, here's an email, tell this guy, do this, and we're going to get you set up. And, you know, what do you think? Have you ever done contracting? I was like, no, I've just seen those dudes rolling around like shit didn't matter because they were making high six figures. I was just like, why not? Like, let's check it out. And ended up getting a call, went through the application process with Academy, and then from there went in, did their selection course, their screening, and I was the first medic to deploy out of that group to get into Afghanistan. So I checked into Afghanistan, I think it was like June 17th of 2013. Yeah. And then from there, it was, you know, checked in with an MST team. So we're just doing mobile satellite security in and around new packs coming in, which was dope, right? It was an awesome mission. And, you know, at that point, there were some kinetic events that were going on in and around the camp. I guess something happened with Big Brother. They rolled up some dude. Those dudes got mad, came in, tried to do some hood rat shit. And then one dude deaded too soon. And that was kind of funny because it's like, he's spread out amongst the camp, and it's just like damn, bro, too soon, right?
Too
like,
early.
Too early, damn, buddy. You know, from there it was like 105 days, 35-day rotation. So it's like, you know, the route, the tracks of progressions is like Marine Corps, school, buried, classwork, not getting an opportunity, and then, you know, taking an opportunity to be overseas, then going overseas, and then being there for, you know, the next 7 years. And, you know, still I felt, and that was the irony of all that, is like I still felt more at home there in those areas than I did when I was back home. Because when I was back home, I was just stressed, drinking, trying to live that rock star lifestyle. And because you finally got money in your pocket, you're able to do what you want to do. And then navigated space to started, you know, really, I don't want to say networking, but getting with different teams and talking to more people and kind of becoming senior on the camp and whatnot. And just had a really good, really positive experience with a number of guys that were there. And some of them were actually more progressive in some of their treatment modalities and what they were working on within themselves. And I recognized that. And I was like, what are you guys doing? And, you know, we'd go to the gym as a team and all this other stuff. And we'd just start chopping it up. And, hey, what books are you reading? And then we would kind of go back and forth. And it's like, you kind of want to stay in line with your peers. And, you know, what are they doing? Or like, check this out. I like the way this dude is, you know, the way he holds himself or carries himself. I'm interested in what he's doing. And you start looking into the similar stuff. And that's kind of what I did. And to try to find my path of, this makes sense. Or, you know, those little blips of like, why am I having so many problems with my relationship? You know, why aren't I working on things that I should be working on? And, you know, started asking myself some of those questions. And even talking to some of the dudes, because we had so much time off, they were, you know, participating in some ceremonies with plant-based stuff. And that sparked my interest of like, maybe this is an alternative to, other than the pharmacological route of like, you know, taking prescription drugs, where it's just like, that didn't work. And I didn't want to be on that. That wasn't my thing. And, you know, looking in, reading and doing more research on that, and then making the determination of like, you know what, when it was all said and done for me to leave contracting, I was like, I'm going to explore this.
So what have you done to date, right? So you did approximately 4 years in the Marine Corps.
Yep.
You start noticing how soon after getting out that you were experiencing. So you said it was in the ER when they brought in that first patient that you just, it took you back to that deployment.
Yep.
So you're starting to recognize that you've got some issues and you're having problems sleeping. Just really staying, you said focusing when you were back in the States, You said it was stressful. You had just too much going on, or
Yeah, I think there was too much going on, but at the same time, like drinking, partying, all of that stuff kind of contributed to that, where it's like it wasn't just that, hey, 18, I recognized I had that problem, which led me to do this. And then all of a sudden, some of those bad habits started creeping up in my life, where it was just like.
And had you started working through anything for your recovery? I mean, you're recognizing them, but you're just throwing it in the back seat and whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
And so now through this new friend group, you're starting to identify that they're doing some stuff to kind of work on their mental health and keep themselves good, right?
Yeah.
So you've never really tried anything to work on it. Now you're hearing about plant-based medicine.
Correct.
Okay. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so the plant-based stuff, was looking at, areas of whether it was going to be ayahuasca or whether or not it was going to be psilocybin, mushrooms, or 5-MeO DMT. Then there was iboga. There was a couple, even at that time, the transition for us was switching things to ketamine, and the properties that ketamine actually had and hold space in, that healing process. And when I started researching it and just looking into it and trying to go down those little rabbit holes of finding out what was working and what wasn't working. And so you could literally see a change in these people when they come back, because they were just like, and these are dudes that I, really kind of admired and respected because of, even what their journey was as being, several units before our unit in Fallujah, where it's like we were in the same AO, so we understood what was happening. But some of these dudes even had shittier fucking deployments.
Right.
And they were just
suffering
as well. And it's just like, well, what are they doing that seems to be more proactive? They seem to be a hell of a lot more put together, and I'm resonating with what they're saying on a way deeper level. And that's what kind of got me a little bit more interested to pursue it. And when I was finally, I think it was about 2017, 2018, when I was done with contracting, that's when I was like, you know what? This is something that I want to do, because through that gap of trying to find mindfulness and working with individuals and seeing what they're doing, I was exploring service dogs and what that was going to be able to do for me, because I wanted a dog, I wanted to do something, and that path led me more along the lines of being able to look at myself and say, hey, this is what makes me happy. And then, I was working dogs from 6 a.m. until 12 o'clock at night. So another dangerous segment of like buying in and taking this and trying to not really be home, but to continue working and striving, because it was purposeful.
Keeping yourself busy, so you didn't have to deal with.
Exactly. And, for me, it was like, that's what I grabbed onto, because of what it made me feel when I was able to take an animal and be around animals in their most primal state, and being able to work with them and being able to see and navigate how they were reacting and the things that they were doing really interested me. And it was something that I could really truly take and feel as though when I was out, I could move that animal and go into certain places where I could use the skill set of hypervigilance, or being somebody who was a little on edge at the time, but park myself into a corner and not really feel anything and not really see, the I don't want to say disorders, but the feeling of being very overstimulated.
Okay.
And like the anxiety of certain places. And, when I got Bourbon and I started working with him, that was something that was truly kind of unique for me, because it was my first dog ever. And I picked him out. He was 3 days old when I met him, and I saw the dad, saw the mom, saw the whole clan. We were doing neurostim on him at the time, and neurostim is just kind of like inducing stress on the animal so that you could assist them in kind of overcoming some of what their life stresses were going to be like. So part of that process is, doing tactile stimulation. On top of the tactile stimulation, you're doing like these hyperthermic wraps to kind of get the puppy to shiver a little bit. And then Once that's done, you're just going in different positions. So you're showing the puppy for like the first 21 days of its life, all of these different things. So you're just kind of stimulating the neural function and assisting them in kind of being okay with it.
So you've got a medical background, but as far as this is concerned, is this the first time you've ever seen anything like this? And
yeah,
and you're going through it with them and getting to see them on a daily. Okay, so
yeah.
So that program, how long was that program?
That program was when I was home. I think I was home for 21 days at a time. So I was still kind of going back and forth at that time. And, when I had him, I was nonstop working. I was nonstop watching videos. I was just completely involved with.
They were just vested.
Yeah. It was like, for me, it was so cool because it's like now you're looking at the pedigree, you're aligning the dogs, you're looking at, it's like racehorses in a sense, right? It's kind of like what makes this dog so good, what, like these pedigrees, these genetics, and how the dog is reacting, bite for all of these things of control that you want to produce in an animal that's going to be just responsive to a T. Like you can send a dog, call him off, and it just bypasses, or whatever your signal is going to be. It's either going to sweep the dude's legs, snack him in the shoulder, like whatever, and wherever you're going to expose something, that's where he's going to go. So then it was like, it wasn't just the dog training, but it was the decoy work. It was the helper work, because that's the dude who's really training the dog. The handler is releasing on certain points, but you're also getting cues from the decoy who's like, hey man, yeah, right here. You see that? Send it. And then you're going to catch the dog, or then you're going to reward that animal so you can keep on kind of gaining that traction in what they're doing, so they can, like, that's when the dog when it's engaged. And then you start splitting that up, and you kind of create this this dance, this choreographed set together. And for me, that was something I was just like, wait a second, this makes sense. I could do something with this. And, I kind of refer to it as like drill in the Marine Corps, where it's like, that's one thing we're known for too, is like, hey, silent drill team, the precision, the preciseness, the movements, all that stuff, where it's like, all right, cool. Kind of the same thing. And it got refined over time, which thus led me to start an organization, Warrior's Choice.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So you got your dog, and you started seeing the benefit for you having a dog for yourself.
Yep.
And now that just you want to get something going, right? So talk to me.
Yeah. So it's kind of it seems like it's all over, but there were so many like little nuances of kind of the driving force, and so many of like little backstories of kind of how it channeled me into where I wanted to be, where that animal and working with him at a young age really kind of focused of like, hey, 22 a day was the thing at the time. So at that point, I was looking at what could I do to impact this? Because I was already going through, I was seeing the difference in me working with him. Physically, I could see the difference as well due to being home. I was just a little bit happier when I had him, because I was just maneuvering, controlling, and facilitating things that were just, it calmed me. It soothed me. I was able to work through some of the process. And then, back and forth, it was, talking with guys and working with them and helping them with their animals, because of the volume of dogs that I was working with. I could see them making ground and making up space of like, oh, this makes sense. Okay, I can do this. And then forming new relationships and bonding. And I was just like, man, this is something that, well, there's a lot of people that hold dogs. Like, this is something I can, be vested in. And I was already fucking hook, line, sinker dude with it. So I was just, finding ways of securing new pedigrees and buying sperm from overseas and setting it and sitting on it in a sperm bank, so that I could build out pedigrees and genetic lines in the future. Because some of these dogs are just fucking monsters. Like, looking at some of the way these animals are. And, for me, it was, just another way of how do you help in this space? Like, knowing that with that medical background, how can I put two and two together? How do I help guys who are leaning into the dogs? How do I make it better? and the team that I was working with at the time, it was made up of, at least some of the top trainers in the industry at that time at a competition level.
Okay.
And they were showing me things, and the times that I was spending with them, it was nice due to they've already gotten rid of all of the errors that they were working on. So they were at the peak of where they were supposed to be. And they've kind of gone through, that's kind of like the old school training methods when they kind of got washed away, where, you'd either put hooks on dogs' feet and back of the ears and like just nasty shit that just doesn't exist, like still exists to a certain degree, but it's not as prominent in the industry as what it was.
Okay.
And that's way before my time. So it's like, I didn't even, pay homage or give much energy to that or what that was, just because it's like, hey, I'm here to watch what's happening now.
Right. This is the gold now.
Yeah.
This is the standard. Okay.
Yeah. And, started seeing, just the way the nonprofit industry kind of carried itself. There were some organizations that were doing really good things. There were some organizations that were just pieces of shit. And what I mean by that is it's a very cutthroat industry where you think people are doing good. And I would tell everybody to ensure that you do your due diligence. All of the financials that you can find on an organization, you can find them online. Look at what they're doing, look at their track record, where are they at, and how much of an impact are they doing? And also, how much are they compensating their board? But also pay mind to how much work are they doing? Because it's a fucking grind, man. Like, it's a lot of work. It's day in and day out. And, especially when you're working with animals, there's no day off.
Right. I think people understand that farmer lifestyle of your animals get up and they expect breakfast now at a certain time, and you've got, you've got to be there. You can't take a day off from them. So I think people understand that. And then when it comes into the training of that animal, it's that constant work.
Yeah, because you're trying to get those repetitions, right? You're trying to create an animal that is, it's just programmed machine. Do this for me.
Specific
task,
each person.
Well, for me at the time, it was mine. It was my task of like, but yes, as it evolved, it's to each individual person. Who are they? What are their needs? How can they be met? And how can I do that? And how can I build it by ensuring that they're going to get the right animal that has enough horsepower to not be too much, not be too little, but not be just flat.
Just what the person needs.
Yeah, just enough to like, I'm gonna push you. I'm gonna get you outside of your comfort zone. I'm gonna test you,
right? But
I'm not gonna break you, kind of thing.
Right.
And that was nice because it gave me an opportunity to interact and communicate and be at the same level to find out, hey, where are these guys at? Are they ready or are they not ready? Or where are they at in this, this constant ebbs and flows of
this cycle,
of transitioning, right? And what I found is that there's a lot of guys who are in certain headspaces where they may not be ready. They think that they are. They think that we're looking at here's another organization. I need this dog, and it's just like some of these organizations and what they're doing, they're like just pacifying what the real root issue is.
What do you mean pacifying?
Well, just kind of like, oh, you're the hero, you're this, you're all these, like, and oh, you got this post-traumatic stress disorder, and you're okay, it's okay, you're broken, or you have PT, like, we have all of these new disorders now, and it's just like, wait a second. Yeah, we're working through some shit, but we're not fucked up. Things have changed, and we have, I think, more life experience than your average civilian, and we've done things in different ways that they can't recognize and or understand what we've done, or the areas in life that we've kind of chartered that make us different. But I think collectively, the way our thought processes, some of us, having those darker images of who we are, or the way we can get out of laughter out of things in certain instances.
How we find humor in some dark things at times. Sure.
Yeah, like fucking with each other and like making fun of each other, and you're fucking gay, dude, and like it's not like we're calling you out on something. We're just banter.
It is.
Yeah, there's no like. So And I think with some dudes, it's just like it resonates where it's like, it's okay for me to be this way. I'll play this. And I remember there was a moment, like, so rewind, VA hospital, trying to do the group therapy thing.
Okay.
And it's like, you're in a big circle and you're all trying to do this, breath work. And, I'm in there, I'm trying to do my breath work, and, I have my dog, and then there's another dog in there at the time, and this dog was like a biscuit away from diabetes. And I was just like, full kit, stickers, patches, the whole works. And
Right.
I'm like, wait, what? And you're trying to meditate. I'm just like, I can't do this. Like, this is not for me. And, so from there, it was just like some of the programs that were being offered, I just couldn't.
They just seemed too fake to you.
Yeah, I couldn't respond to it, or I wasn't ready, or willing to expose myself to that. And that was maybe something that, because at that time I hadn't explored psychedelics yet. But it's like, for me, it was like, all right, well, that's not going to work. I'm not feeling that. So I kept going down deeper dog work and doing more insight into the plant-based stuff, and then that led me to, being with a good friend of mine who I was on deployment with, and he and I participating in a ceremony where it was like, hey man, I'll be here for you, watch out, we're going to timestamp it, this is what we're going to do, and grab your balls and fucking hang on.
Sweet. Well, do you mind if we take a quick break here?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then when we get back, we'll get into that plant-based and that whole ceremony.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds good.
Sweet, man. Appreciate it. Sorry, I gotta pee.